Today we are diving into a massive showdown that's unfolding right now at the intersection of artificial intelligence, corporate ethics, and raw government power. This is a story about a fight that could literally define the future of AI and who gets to call the shots.
And this right here, this statement from a coalition of over 700,000 tech workers, it just perfectly sets the stage. They don't see this as just some business dispute. For them, this is a fight for civil liberties against what could become unprecedented government surveillance. The stakes? Well, they couldn't be higher.
Okay, so let's get right into the heart of this conflict. On one side, you have the AI company Anthropic, and on the other, the Pentagon itself, which is demanding, not asking, demanding, that Anthropic strip away critical safety features from its incredibly powerful AI model, Claude.
So here's the standoff in a nutshell. The Pentagon wants total, unrestricted access to Claude for its classified operations. Anthropic's response? A hard no. They've publicly stated they cannot in good conscience accede to their request. This isn't a negotiation, folks. This is a line in the sand.
So what are these safety rules that have caused such an uproar? It really boils down to two huge things. First, a flat-out ban on using the AI for mass surveillance on civilians. And second, a ban on using it to build autonomous weapons, killer robots that can make life-or-death decisions with no human in the loop.
Now, your first thought might be, just follow the money, right? The Pentagon contract is worth a cool $200 million. But here's the kicker. For Anthropic, a company valued at over $18 billion, that's almost a rounding error. It's financially immaterial. And that makes it crystal clear. This is a fight over principles, not profit.
And the pressure they're under is just immense. According to Anthropic's own CEO, the Pentagon is hitting them with these completely contradictory threats. It's wild. On one hand, they're threatening to label Anthropic a supply chain risk. But on the other hand, they're threatening to invoke the Defense Production Act, which would mean declaring their AI as essential to national security. It's an aggressive, heads we win, tails you lose kind of attack.
Which, of course, raises the big question, why this AI? What is it about Claude that is so special, so powerful, that the US government is willing to strong-arm its creators and kick off this huge public firestorm? To really get that, we need to zoom out and look at the bigger picture.
So let's talk about the AI arms race, because the performance numbers, the actual data, reveal exactly why Claude is such a valuable prize. This is where you see the desperation really coming from.
Okay, look at this. This is fascinating. Anthropic's Claude 4 Sonnet is ranked number one on what's called SW Bench. That's the gold standard for testing an AI's ability to handle real-world coding. It's not just a little bit better either. It's sitting at the top of the leaderboard, ahead of the giants, OpenAI and Google.
And just so we're clear, SWBench isn't some simple textbook quiz. No, this thing tests an AI against nearly 500 genuine, messy, complex software engineering problems. We're talking about fixing bugs and adding new features to massive code bases. A score of 77% means it can autonomously solve 386 of these real-world challenges. That's a huge deal. But here's the thing. While Claude might be the king of coding, this chart shows you the race is just incredibly tight everywhere else. When it comes to other critical skills like advanced math, OpenAI's GPT-5 is leading the charge. Every one of these companies is pushing the absolute limits, and you can see why the Pentagon wants the best-in-class tool no matter what the job is.
Now, a high-profile fight like this, it doesn't happen in a vacuum. It has sucked the rest of Silicon Valley right into the middle of it, forcing the industry to pick a side and creating some pretty strange bedfellows.
The pushback from inside the industry has been just enormous. We're talking about labor groups that represent 700,000 tech workers. They formally asked their own bosses at places like Google and Microsoft to publicly back Anthropic and promise to refuse any similar government demands in the future.
And then, in a move that I don't think anyone saw coming, even Anthropic's #1 rival, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman, publicly sided with them. He said that avoiding mass surveillance and killer robots are OpenAI's main red lines. You know things are serious when your biggest competitor has your back on an ethical stand. It shows this has hit a nerve across the entire industry.
But with all this drama swirling around these supposedly all-powerful AIs, it kind of makes you stop and ask a question, doesn't it? Are these models really as capable, as reliable as this whole conflict makes them seem? Some experts are pumping the brakes, hard.
AI researcher Gary Marcus has this brilliant quote that I think just sums it up perfectly. He says, these models are both amazing and, at the same time, complete failures because they still haven't solved some really fundamental problems. So here's his case, laid out.
These systems still hallucinate, which is just a polite way of saying they literally make stuff up. They can't always be trusted. He also points out that companies are getting more and more secretive, and there's a huge risk of data contamination, where a model gets a great test score simply because it secretly saw the test answers during its training. He's warning that we're seeing a big leap in hype, but not necessarily in real, trustworthy science.
And all of that brings us right back to the core of this whole story. It's a fundamental clash, a collision course between the principles of the people who create AI, the immense power of the government that wants to use it, and the messy, complicated reality of the technology itself.
Anthropic's entire philosophy is built around this idea they call constitutional AI. So instead of just learning from what humans like or dislike, the AI is guided by an actual written constitution of ethical principles. This is the very system they're fighting to protect, a system designed from the ground up to be more principled and predictable.
And predictably, this conflict has escalated all the way to the top. On Truth Social, President Trump weighed in, accusing Anthropic of making a disastrous mistake, and claiming their stance was an act of selfishness that's putting American lives at risk.
And then, the White House made it official. Let's just walk through their response. First, the accusation, officially labeling the company a national security threat. Second, the directive, ordering every single federal agency to stop using Anthropic's tech, period. And finally, a bit of a strange concession, giving them a 6-month grace period to phase it out, which kind of admits just how deeply embedded this technology already is. It's a sweeping, punitive reaction to a company that's trying to stick to its guns.
So when you step back and look at this whole story, a few things are just crystal clear. First, we are seeing a new kind of corporate standoff, one that's being fought over principles, not just profit. Second, the AI arms race is moving so fast that governments now see this technology as an essential national security asset. And third, for all the hype, there are still very real questions about whether these AIs are ready for such high-stakes work. Which leaves us with this one final, monumental question. As AI becomes the key to everything, who gets to decide the rules? The people who build it, guided by their principles, or the powerful institutions who use it, driven by their own agendas? The answer to that is going to shape our world for decades to come.